Sometimes it's bad breath, sometimes it's a fake horse heart, sometimes it's a fully functioning exploded whale. These TV scenes were gross to watch, but they were so much worse for the actors. Throughout its 8 seasons, Game of Thrones presented audiences with an exceptional level of gore and bloodshed, but one scene that may have caused viewers to feel a little queasy came in Season 1 when Daenerys Targaryen chows down a horse's heart as part of a Dothraki ritual. As horrific as it was to watch, it was much worse to actually do. The fake heart was reportedly so disgusting that Emilia Clarke was vomiting into a nearby bucket for much of the day, and Clarke estimates she ate 28 hearts while filming. During an interview with The Mirror, she said, "They made the heart out of solidified jam, but it tasted like bleach and raw pasta. It was very helpful to be given something so truly disgusting to eat, so there wasn't much acting required."
Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's real. That's real.
One of the biggest open secrets in show business is the spit bucket. If an eating scene requires multiple takes, actors often spit out their food whenever the camera cuts. While this behind-the-scenes trick is used frequently in both film and television, it proved to be a bit too much for Ed Helms during the Beach Games episode of The Office. The episode revolves around an absurd series of trials and contests devised by Michael Scott to pick his successor as regional manager. One of these is a hot dog eating contest, and for Ed Helms, the process of chewing and spitting the hot dogs became unbearable after a few takes.
14 hot dogs!
One came up.
13 hot dogs!
During an episode of the Office Ladies podcast, Angela Kinsey revealed that the repetitive chewing and spitting kept activating Helms's gag reflex, and the communal bucket of chewed hot dog pieces only grossed him out even more. Combined with filming on a hot day, it was a recipe for disaster. Yellow Jackets tells the story of a high school girls' soccer team who crash land in the Canadian wilderness while flying to a championship game. The team lives in the wild for 19 months, slowly losing their grip on reality and committing horrific acts that continue to haunt them well into adulthood. The tone is set for this grisly survival saga from the start, but one of the most disgusting moments is the feast scene from Season 2, Episode 2, in which the survivors crowd around the dead body of Jackie Taylor and devour her. According to actors Sophie Nélisse and Courtney Eaton, the scene made their co-star Samantha Hanratty throw up in real life. The fake meat was made with jackfruit and rice paper, which got soggy and slimy as filming went on. Nélisse told BuzzFeed News, "We were pulling out the rice paper and it was all soggy. We were like, this is the grossest thing ever. It just tasted disgusting." Throughout his many seasons on American Horror Story, Evan Peters has made a name for himself by playing some of the most twisted characters that the series has ever seen. One of Peters' more despicable characters is James March, an eccentric serial killer who built the Hotel Cortez in American Horror Story Hotel. In an interview with GQ, Peters explained that he found March to be incredibly difficult to play, and recalled that March's violent sex scene in the second episode had a particularly bad effect on him, calling it horrific and weird and sad. But while he singled out that specific scene, Peters also said that playing such horrific characters in general has never felt good. He said, "I think it's disgusting and really awful, and it's been a challenge for me. Horror Story sort of demanded that of me." Although many of Peters' villains are still revered by the AHS fandom, it's clear that these scenes have had an unsettling effect on the actor himself.
I've become kind of desensitized to this stuff, which is really weird and kind of gross.
Given all the gore and death in Game of Thrones, it makes sense that the series is a repeat offender on this list. He may not have had to devour an entire horse heart like Emilia Clarke, but actor John Bradley almost lost his lunch over another revolting scene from Season 7, the Greyscale removal scene with Jorah Mormont. To treat the aggressive, scaly virus covering Mormont's body, Sam is forced to cut off all the pus-filled infected flesh, which was just as gross behind the scenes as it was on camera. Bradley admitted to The Hollywood Reporter, "It looked disgusting on the day too. It looks disgusting even when you know it's latex and that there's a man nearby with a bucket filled with creamy gunk." Gross as this scene might have been, Bradley went on to say that he was very happy with Sam's decision to tackle Mormont's disease, saying it was a very brave moment for his character.
"You're not dying today, Sir Jorah."
Post-apocalyptic drama The Last of Us is another series jam-packed with disgusting imagery, particularly with its zombies. The show takes place in the aftermath of a worldwide pandemic in which the parasitic cordyceps virus infects most of the population and turns them into mutated monstrosities. Those infected by the virus become horrifically disfigured as the fungus spreads, and the longer you are infected, the more monstrous you become. Perhaps the best example is the notorious clickers, who have been infected for so long that their skull has split open down the middle, leaving them blind and exceptionally violent. During an interview with IGN, actor Pedro Pascal admitted that he was disgusted by just the sight of the clickers on set, particularly as they were made with entirely practical effects. I was grossed out, like scary stuff, but the clickers were a little too much for me. They're kind of like a monstrous floral nightmare. As disgusting as the zombies in The Last of Us are, it's safe to say that The Walking Dead can give the series a run for its money in terms of gore. Even when the survivors aren't getting torn to shreds, the walkers themselves are often more than enough to make fans feel a bit queasy. One of the most disgusting zombies in the entire series shows up in the Season 2 episode Cherokee Rose, which was so revolting that it made T-Dog actor IronE Singleton gag on set. The zombie in question was an enormously bloated walker who had fallen into a well and who unfortunately split in half when the group tried to pull him out. Singleton explained during an interview for Wizard World 2020, "That thing was so nasty, I was gagging because we were out in a dirt field and there was a lot of dust being kicked up after every take, and then that mixed with the fact that this zombie was so disgusting." Singleton went on to say that the episode's director had to come over and explicitly ask him to stop gagging, but that the sight of this revolting walker made it almost impossible to follow that instruction.
Good thing we didn't do anything stupid like shoot it.
WandaVision isn't a show most people would consider disturbing, although the whole thing about Wanda enslaving an entire town to keep up the illusion of her happy family life is a little dark. For actors Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen, however, perhaps the most unsettling scene in the series is a shared kiss between their characters, which they not so affectionately referred to as Snotgate. The scene was filmed in extremely cold weather, and at least one of the actors' noses began running and smeared on the other person. Whose was it? Well, it's something they never stopped arguing about. Bettany said in an interview with Entertainment Weekly, "She'll tell you a crock of shit about whose snot it was. I know the truth and people shouldn't be fooled by her story." Olsen, on the other hand, insists that the boogers came from Bettany and was still sticking with that story when the topic came up in a 2023 Vanity Fair interview.
I asked his makeup artist to get him a tissue, and he said it was my snot. And he was actually mad at me.
Regardless of who manufactured the mucus, it's clear that both actors were extremely grossed out by it. Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany only shared one memorably revolting kiss. The Office star Angela Kinsey has said almost every kiss she shared with Rainn Wilson was downright disgusting.
That sounds fun.
Fans of the series will remember the strange, oddly formal relationship between Dwight Schrute and Angela Martin, who attempt to keep their romance a secret from the rest of the office and who finally marry one another in the series finale. Despite being at the center of the series' longest on-again, off-again romance, Kinsey says that the kisses were absolutely disgusting due to Wilson's eating habits. She said during an episode of the Office Ladies podcast that Rainn would almost always chow down on something gross just before they shot a kiss scene.
He was usually eating something disgusting right beforehand. And I'd be like, Rainn, dang it. Do you have to eat a tuna fish sandwich?
Dark superhero drama The Boys is another show with plenty of disturbing scenes and abundant gore, including one exceptionally nasty incident where the boys ram a speedboat into the stomach of a beached whale. The scene is about as disgusting as you can imagine, with the crew getting caked head to toe in whale guts, and Huey sitting in stunned silence beside the whale's still pulsing organs. This diabolically gross scene made a particular impact on actor Karl Urban, who found the prosthetic whale to be utterly disgusting. He said, "It was a fully functioning set, so the interior of the whale is just blood and guts." In a separate interview for the 2020 CTAM Summer Press Tour, Urban said that the fake guts became unbearably hot in the sun and attracted a swarm of insects, making the set somehow even more disgusting than when they started filming. The fourth season of the supernatural drama series, Stranger Things, was also one of its most visceral to date. In addition to one particularly grisly death scene, this season also includes several brutal murders at the hands of the psychic serial killer Vecna, played by Jamie Campbell Bower. These gruesome scenes are undeniably difficult to watch, though perhaps even more revolting is the appearance of Vecna himself, a hulking, noseless monstrosity with deformed claws and tendrils embedded deep in his flesh. For Millie Bobby Brown, the prosthetics for Vecna were downright disgusting. Bower explained during an interview with Variety, "They brought her up into a position where she's bound. I walked up to her as Vecna and she burst into tears. She wouldn't look at me and she was visibly just disgusted by the whole thing." Taylor Sheridan's incredibly popular neo-Western series Yellowstone revolves around the exploits of the ruthless Dutton family, led by Kevin Costner's John Dutton. Throughout the series, we've watched John go to some incredibly dark places while protecting his family. Considering all of the times we've watched John order hits and murder his competitors in cold blood, it's somewhat ironic that one of Costner's most difficult scenes occurred over the dinner table. According to Gabriel Gilbo, the real-life caterer for Yellowstone, who also plays John's chef, Gator, Kevin Costner was legitimately disgusted by a scene that involved grilled octopus.
What the? Gator. Yeah. The is that?
I set this big sea spider down in front of poor Kevin Costner. He looked at me like he was a little kid and I just stepped on his cat or something. It was a genuine reaction that you see in the show. For all the murder that goes on in Yellowstone, there's something hilarious about the fact that a sensibly prepared meal was the thing that bothered Costner the most.